Teenagers are often seen as the future, yet some commit horrific acts that shatter communities. But what happens to these young offenders once they enter the prison system? In this video, we have some of the darkest journeys of teenage mass murderers behind bars.
On June 30th, my sister decided to make the only correct choices in episode 1 of season 1 of The Walking Dead games.
How the prison system shapes their fate, how they cope with their past actions, and the question of whether redemption is ever possible. Number 5. Nicholas Prosper.
The shotgun that was used to kill your mum and your brother and sister.
No comments.
I mean, I can confirm that this knife was taken from you by police officers, okay?
No comments.
In Luton, Bedfordshire, on September 13, 2024, 18-year-old Nicholas Prosper turned on his own family in a brutal act of violence. The first victim was his mother, 48-year-old Juliana Prosper, a devoted single mother who had emigrated from Argentina to build a better life for her children. In the early hours of the morning, Juliana unexpectedly woke to find her son armed with a shotgun. A brief struggle followed, leaving defensive wounds on her hands and arms, before Nicholas fired the fatal shot, killing his mother at close range in the hallway of their flat on Warloods Bank Drive. 13-year-old Giselle Prosper, Nicholas's younger sister, became the second victim. Awakened by the gunshots, she tried to flee to the living room and hide under a dining table. Nicholas pursued her, shooting at her first, grazing the back of her head. He followed her under the table, delivering a fatal shot to her face at point-blank range. 16-year-old Kyle Prosper, the final victim, tried to defend himself by grabbing a kitchen knife, but was shot in the chest and stabbed over 100 times with multiple knives. Kyle managed to crawl into the hallway, where he saw his mother's body. Nicholas then delivered a final gunshot to his brother's head. Nicholas had spent over a year planning the massacre. Investigators discovered that he was obsessed with achieving infamy by surpassing the death toll of previous mass murderers. He studied the logistics of past attacks and researched weapons. His target was St. Joseph's Catholic Primary School, where he had once been a student. He chose this school not out of personal grievance, but because he knew its layout and security systems. In the months leading up to the attack, Nicholas contacted the school, posing as a parent to inquire about daily schedules. He carefully studied the school's website, saved images of students and teachers, and sketched out classroom layouts, writing the words "kill all" beside his plans. He selected Friday the 13th as the date of the attack, believing that the date would increase his notoriety. To obtain a weapon, Nicholas forged a firearms certificate, using fake signatures and documentation. He successfully purchased a 12-gauge double-barreled shotgun and 100 rounds of ammunition for £650 from a local dealer, who accepted the forged license as legitimate. The night before the attack, Nicholas made final preparations while his family slept nearby. He researched shotgun wounds, watched school shooting footage, and viewed disturbing content until the early morning hours. His original plan was to kill his family members silently while they slept, then proceed to the school. However, his mother's unexpected awakening forced him to change his timeline. After murdering his family, Nicholas left the flat at 5:33 a.m., carrying the reloaded shotgun and 33 cartridges in a bag. He walked towards St. Joseph's Primary School, but quickly realized that the school would be empty at such an early hour. Police activity following the discovery of the bodies also disrupted his plans. He spent over 2 hours hiding in nearby woods before abandoning his weapons and surrendering to the authorities. At 7:55 a.m., Nicholas flagged down a police car on Birmingham Road. With blood visible on his hands, clothes, and glasses, he calmly told officers, "It's not murder," showing no remorse for his actions. He even asked the officers if local schools had gone into lockdown, disappointed that his larger plan had failed. In police interviews, Nicholas responded with no comment to most questions about the murders.
No comments.
However, while in custody, he confessed to a mental health nurse about his year-long planning process and his intention to kill 34 people before taking his own life. He also revealed that he had previously attempted to rob a gun dealer and had planned to sexually assault his sister as part of the attack. Nicholas also disclosed a bizarre obsession with Clementine, a fictional character from the Walking Dead video game series. He believed himself to be her protector and had created videos declaring his allegiance to this non-existent person. He claimed that his sister deserved punishment for a choice she made in the game that displeased the character. On February 24, 2025, Nicholas Prosper pleaded guilty to 3 counts of murder, along with charges related to illegal firearm possession and forgery. On March 19, 2025, Nicholas was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 49 years. In prison, inmates who harm children or family members face extreme hostility. Nicholas's crimes have made him a target for violence within the prison population. To protect him, he will likely be kept in isolation, but this comes with its own set of psychological challenges. His isolation means limited social interaction, extended periods of solitude, and the constant awareness that he cannot safely integrate with other prisoners. Number 4. Michael Carneal. In the hallways of Heath High School in West Paducah, Kentucky, a 14-year-old freshman named Michael Carneal arrived on December 1, 1997, carrying more than just textbooks in his backpack. The thin boy with glasses who stood barely 5 feet 2 inches tall had been bullied relentlessly throughout his school years. His classmates threw frog parts on his shoulders during science class, hit him in the hallways, and published gossip calling him derogatory names. On that Monday morning, Carneal wrapped stolen firearms in blankets and told his sister they were art projects. He had spent Thanksgiving weekend breaking into neighbors' homes, stealing weapons and ammunition, while his family enjoyed holiday meals. The boy who cried when seeing homeless people and quit Boy Scouts because he disliked authority had transformed into something far more dangerous. He inserted earplugs into his ears before approaching a student prayer circle in the school lobby. The prayer group met every morning before classes started. Carneal had disrupted them before, but this time was different. Without warning, he pulled out a stolen Ruger Mk 2.22 caliber pistol and fired 10 rounds in rapid succession at the unsuspecting students. 3 girls died that day. Nicole Hadley, a 14-year-old freshman who had moved from Nebraska just 1 year earlier. Jessica James, a 17-year-old marching band member who had been one of Carneal's few childhood friends. Casey Stager, a 15-year-old sophomore who played clarinet and dreamed of becoming a police officer. 5 other students suffered gunshot wounds. Melissa Jenkins was paralyzed from the chest down. The homecoming queen, Shelley Shaberg, would never play basketball again due to her injuries. After this, he simply placed the gun on the ground and surrendered to the principal, saying, "Kill me, please. I can't believe I did that." The warning signs had been there for months. Carneal told classmates something big is going to happen on Monday, referring to the day after Thanksgiving break. He showed stolen weapons to band students. His handwriting became sloppy, and he wrote less in his daily journal assignments. Mental health professionals later diagnosed Carneal with paranoid schizophrenia after discovering the extent of his delusions. In October 1998, Carneal pleaded guilty to murder and attempted murder charges. Despite his young age, the court sentenced him to 3 consecutive life terms with the possibility of parole after 25 years. The judge considered his mental illness and potential for rehabilitation when determining the sentence. Carneal was initially held at Northern Kentucky Youth Development Center before transferring to Kentucky State Reformatory in LaGrange when he turned 18. Prison life for Carneal operates on strict schedules and constant surveillance. He wakes early each morning to the sounds of clanging metal doors and echoing footsteps throughout the facility. Meals, recreation time, and work assignments follow rigid timetables. Carneal spends most hours confined to his cell, where he takes prescribed medications, including the antidepressant Zoloft and the antipsychotic Geodon, to manage his schizophrenia symptoms. Interactions with other inmates remain limited and carefully monitored by guards. Carneal must navigate complex prison social dynamics where trust is rare and survival instincts guide most decisions. He maintains a low profile to avoid conflicts that could threaten his safety. In 2007, Carneal filed an appeal claiming he was too mentally ill to have entered his original guilty plea. The Kentucky Supreme Court rejected his request. 5 years later, he attempted to withdraw his plea entirely, arguing mental illness prevented him from making informed decisions. The U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals denied this motion as well, stating he should have acted sooner. The parole hearing in September 2022 marked a critical moment in Carneal's case. After serving 25 years behind bars, he appeared before the parole board seeking release. Victims and family members testified about the lasting impact of his crimes. They expressed concerns about his commitment to continued mental health treatment if released. The board unanimously denied his parole request and ordered him to serve out his entire life sentence. This serve-out ruling under Kentucky law means Carneal cannot be considered for future parole hearings. His life sentence with the possibility of parole has effectively become life without parole. Only a gubernatorial commutation or pardon could now secure his release. The decision reflected the board's assessment of the crime's severity and ongoing public safety concerns. Number 3. Zachary Davis. In Hendersonville, Tennessee, on August 10, 2012, 15-year-old Zachary Davis brutally murdered his mother, Melanie, with a sledgehammer while she slept. Afterward, he attempted to burn down their home, trapping his older brother Josh inside. From the outside, the Davis family appeared normal. Melanie was a dedicated paralegal, trained as a triathlete, and raised her 2 teenage sons after losing her husband, Chris, to ALS in 2007. Just hours before her death, she and Zachary had made plans to see a movie together. Text messages between mother and son seemed to indicate a loving relationship, adding to the shock of what would unfold later that night. But beneath this ordinary facade, Zachary was struggling with severe mental health issues. Following his father's death, he began hearing voices, including what he believed to be his deceased father speaking to him. Diagnosed with schizophrenia and depressive disorder, Zachary's mother, Melanie, pulled him from therapy after only a few sessions, unaware of the severity of her son's condition. The warning signs were there for those who paid attention. Zachary had become increasingly withdrawn and monotone in his speech. He wore the same hoodie every day and had few friends. His phone contained apps about serial killers and torture devices, while his notebooks were filled with disturbing phrases such as, "You can't spell slaughter without laughter." He had even bookmarked articles about famous murder cases, developing an obsession with understanding how killers operated. On the night of the murder, the family returned home from a movie around 8 p.m. Melanie went to bed at 9 p.m., and Josh went to his room upstairs. But Zachary had a different plan. He packed bags with clothes, notebooks, gloves, a ski mask, and weapons. After waiting for hours to ensure everyone was asleep, he retrieved a sledgehammer from the basement and entered his mother's bedroom. There, he struck her about 12 times while she slept. When asked why he had hit her so many times, Zachary replied simply, "To make sure she was dead." Afterwards, Zachary locked his mother's bedroom door, went to the game room, and set the house on fire. He doused the room with whiskey and gasoline in an attempt to kill his brother, Josh, while he escaped. However, the fire did not spread quickly enough, as Zachary had closed the door to the room. Josh woke to the sound of the fire alarm, discovered the blaze, and tried to check on his mother. When he found her bedroom door locked, he kicked it in and discovered her bloodied body. Josh managed to escape the house and call for help, while Zachary fled on foot, walking nearly 5 miles before being picked up by the police around 5 a.m. Throughout his capture and interrogation, Zachary displayed an eerie calmness. His tone remained flat and monotone, showing no emotion, remorse, or fear. He even laughed when describing certain aspects of the murder. During questioning, Zachary revealed the extent of his planning. He had even coded a message on the sledgehammer handle that translated to Z Requiem, possibly referring to his initials and a mass for the dead. His chilling indifference and meticulous preparation painted a disturbing picture of a teenager detached from reality. Over the years, Zachary's story changed multiple times. Initially, he claimed that voices had told him to kill his mother. Later, he said she wasn't taking care of the family. In his trial, he made unsubstantiated allegations about being assaulted by a family member years earlier and shockingly blamed his brother Josh for the murder, claiming Josh had taken the blame to protect him. Zachary was sentenced to life in prison, with eligibility for parole after 51 years. Additionally, the court added 20 years to his sentence for attempted murder and aggravated arson. These sentences will be served concurrently but consecutively to the life sentence for the first-degree murder conviction. Number 4. T.J. Lane. On February 27, 2012, the halls of Chardon High School in Ohio, Thomas T.J. Lane III, a 17-year-old student, walked into the cafeteria at 7:30 a.m., armed with a stolen .22 caliber Ruger handgun. Without warning or apparent reason, he opened fire on students gathered for breakfast and waiting for buses to other schools. The attack lasted only minutes, but left 3 teenagers dead and 3 others wounded. Lane targeted a specific table where students from the Auburn Career Center were sitting. Surveillance footage captured him systematically shooting 4 male students before fleeing and wounding a female student on his way out. Teachers Frank Hall and Joseph Ritchie chased him from the building, with Hall charging directly at the gunman despite having a weapon pointed at him. Police arrested Lane outside the school near his parked car on Wooden Road. The community was devastated. 3 families lost their children in the span of 48 hours as the victims succumbed to their injuries at Metro Health Medical Center in Cleveland. Daniel Parmator, who studied computer science and dreamed of working with technology, died first at noon on the day of the shooting. Russell King Jr., who was studying alternative energy technologies, was pronounced brain dead early the next morning. Demetrius Hewlin, who wanted to join the football team, died on February 28th. Lane's motives remained largely unclear, though witnesses reported he had a personal rivalry with Russell King. Students said King had previously threatened to fight Lane, prompting the shooter to take up weightlifting in preparation for a confrontation. 4 of the 5 victims at the targeted table were Auburn Career Center students who rode the same bus as Lane to their various schools. Lane knew some of his victims from middle school. The weapon belonged to Lane's uncle, who had purchased it legally. Lane stole the handgun from his relative's home before carrying out the attack. When arrested, police found both the dropped gun and a knife near Lane's location outside the school. Lane's background revealed a troubled teenager from a broken home. His juvenile record showed 2 prior arrests in December 2009 for assaulting his uncle and hitting another boy in the face. During legal proceedings, he showed no emotion or regret for the lives he had taken. This cold indifference would become his defining characteristic throughout his time in the justice system. On February 26, 2013, Lane shocked everyone by pleading guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of attempted aggravated murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. His sentencing hearing on March 19, 2013, revealed the true extent of his disturbing mindset. Lane entered the courtroom wearing a dress shirt, which he removed to reveal a white T-shirt with "Killer" handwritten across the front. He smiled and smirked throughout the proceedings, showing no respect for the victims' families present. After receiving 3 consecutive life sentences without parole, Lane delivered a final statement that solidified his reputation as one of the most callous teenage killers in recent memory. Looking directly at the victims' families, Lane said, "This hand that pulled the trigger that killed your sons now masturbates to the memory. F all of you," while giving them the middle finger. The courtroom fell silent at this grotesque display of cruelty toward grieving parents. Lane's prison experience began at Allen Correctional Institution, where his defiant behavior continued. Over 18 months, he accumulated 7 disciplinary violations, including marijuana use and self-mutilation. Guards discovered 3 tattoos Lane had carved into his own chest, leading to a 10-day segregation period. He consistently showed disrespect toward authority figures and refused to follow basic instructions. His educational participation was equally problematic. Lane frequently complained that schoolwork made him ill and caused migraines. When teachers allowed him to draw instead of completing assignments, he abused the privilege by creating disturbing self-portraits with the word "killer" and doodling over his math work. On September 11, 2014, Lane attempted his most brazen act yet. Along with 2 other inmates, he used a makeshift ladder to scale a fence during recreation time, escaping from Allen Correctional Institution. Lane's freedom lasted less than 6 hours. Police captured him near the woods close to the prison at 1:20 a.m. the following day. Following his recapture, authorities discovered extensive contraband in Lane's cell, including unauthorized clothing, 15 books, and Pokémon cards. Lane was immediately transferred to the Ohio State Penitentiary in Youngstown, the state's only supermax facility. His new environment was drastically different from his previous housing. Confined to a cell the size of a small parking space, Lane now spent 23 hours daily in isolation, with only 1 hour of recreation time. The supermax cell contained only essential items: a bed, toilet, and small desk. Thick reinforced walls and constant surveillance cameras monitored his every movement. Guards delivered meals through slots and conducted routine checks with minimal personal interaction. Lane's brief recreation time occurred in a small outdoor area enclosed by high walls and wire mesh. Group activities and socialization were strictly prohibited, leaving him completely isolated from human contact beyond basic guard interactions. Today, Lane remains in maximum security housing, serving his 3 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. Number 1. Andrew Golden. On March 24, 1998, at Westside Middle School in Jonesboro, Arkansas, 2 young boys committed one of the most calculated school shootings in American history. 11-year-old Andrew Golden and 13-year-old Mitchell Johnson killed 5 people and wounded 10 others in a meticulously planned attack that shocked the nation. Golden pulled the fire alarm that day, sending his classmates and teachers streaming out of the building in orderly evacuation lines. While they walked calmly toward what they believed was safety, Golden had already taken his position in the woods with Johnson, armed with multiple rifles and handguns. The fire alarm was bait. Golden and Johnson had stolen weapons from Golden's grandfather's house and Golden's family home, accumulating an arsenal that included rifles, pistols, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Golden was an expert marksman despite his age. He had been hunting since he was 4 years old and regularly practiced target shooting with his father and grandfather. His family owned multiple firearms, and Golden was familiar with various types of weapons, including pistols, rifles, and shotguns. He had even won prizes in shooting competitions and was known throughout his community as an exceptional shot. This skill made Golden particularly dangerous during the attack. From approximately 25 yards away, Golden and Johnson opened fire on the evacuating students and staff. The victims included 4 students and 1 teacher. Shannon Wright, a 32-year-old English teacher, was killed while trying to shield students from the gunfire. Students Brittany Varner, Paige Herring, Natalie Brooks, and Stephanie Johnson also lost their lives. The boys had planned their escape route carefully, They attempted to flee to a van they had hidden in the woods, stocked with supplies for survival. However, their plan failed when they became entangled in a barbed wire fence while trying to reach their vehicle. Police captured them within 10 minutes of the shooting. Golden and Johnson were tried as juveniles due to their ages, which meant their court records were sealed and they would be released when they turned 18-21. After his release in 2007, Golden legally changed his name to Drew Douglas Grant and attempted to build a new life. He moved to Missouri, attended college, and tried to remain anonymous. However, his past continued to follow him. In 2017, families of the victims were awarded $150 million in damages in a civil lawsuit. Golden's story ended abruptly on July 27, 2019, when he was killed in a head-on car collision in Arkansas. He was 33 years old at the time of his death. His wife and young son were injured in the crash, but survived. The other driver, 59-year-old Daniel Petty, was also killed in the accident.